We all know it can be hard to be one of the smaller kids on a youth baseball team who's waiting to grow and maybe gets overlooked because they don't have the size and the strength of other players. But in this video, let's talk about the silver lining that comes with being a late bloomer as a baseball player. So if you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher. I also was kind of in the late bloomer camp. I was also kind of not. Of course, our development as baseball players is highly it's a very lumpy upward trend. It's not a linear progression like we all think it is. I was a really good player when I was young. I started to have some arm problems when I was 14, 15, and they persisted, honestly, for the rest of my career. So in some ways, I consider myself a late bloomer because when I got to college, I was basically the worst pitcher on my Division I team. But in other ways, I was a really good player from basically the first day at age 8 all the way up until when I started having a lot of injury problems. So I've kind of been in both camps where I was a good player and I was also an overlooked player when I wasn't really used that much in high school because my arm was always bothering me and I was struggling on the field. And then in college, I really had to fight for everything. And I was sort of like, one of the last people in the depth chart as a freshman and then sophomore. So one of my favorite analogies comes from the philosophy world here. And I was a philosophy major in college. And this one poem really stuck out to me. It was about the crooked tree. No one cut down the crooked tree because it wasn't useful to other people. So its prize for being in many ways less desirable was that it got to remain on the hill, whereas everywhere else, as far as the eye could see, was chopped down and used for lumber. And I think this analogy is reasonable for what happens in youth sports. A lot of times when the best players, especially in baseball, especially as a pitcher, if you're a really hard throwing, excellent pitcher when you're young, what happens to you? You get used up. Lots of coaches, they see that player and they go, I can't wait to pitch this kid Monday and then again on Thursday and then again on Sunday. And we're going to win this tournament because of our stud pitcher, right? And what happens to many of those pitchers? They do get run into the ground and they have injury problems. They get burned out and then they quit. That does happen to a subset of really early developing players. Now, of course, there are also the benefits, some of the pros of being an early developing player. You get access to better teams, better coaching, and a lot of other resources, like maybe you get to play on, the USA baseball team, right? And then open up to all these scouts watching and then amazing coaches, right? We all know there's some benefits. I'm not going to downplay those here either. But the thing is, for a lot of parents and players of smaller kids, it can be really disheartening thinking, well, my kid's never going to have a chance. But the reality is baseball is a highly skill-based sport. Doesn't matter what position you play. And if you stick to your guns and say, I'm still on this team, I'm still contributing, I might only be the 6th best player, but I'm developing my skills, I'm working really hard, and then guess what happens? You hit that growth spurt, because you don't know when it's going to come, but it's going to come, and then you hit that growth spurt, and suddenly, because you focus so much of your energy, not on being the star player, but just on working hard at the fundamentals and developing all of the important fundamental skills of baseball. Now, when you get that big jolt of height, that big jolt of strength, and you go from boy more to man, now all those fundamentals come right into play, and your bat speed jumps from 65 to 85, and your velocity on the mound jumps from 75, to 90 or whatever it is. And so a lot of times, those middle of the road players who get overlooked, they just keep their heads down and they work hard. And then when they get their chance and their body is ready to grow, now they often vault above a lot of players who were good young, who maybe got complacent. Maybe they realized they didn't have to work as hard to be one of the top players. And I've seen lots of players over the years really jump past those. One player that I coached, he was super undersized. He was an excellent catcher. We kept him on our top 16U team because he was such a good receiving catcher. But the kid was like 130 pounds soaking wet, could barely make the throws down to second base on the big field. But he was such a good catcher, framed so well. He had an excellent eye at the plate as a hitter. So he provided a lot of value to us, handling the pitching staff, his actual receiving skills. He wasn't a good thrower down to second base because he didn't have the velocity. But he also got on base through tons of walks, and his on-base percentage was actually very, very high. We kept him on our team despite the grumblings of many players and some parents, which was really disappointing to us that they didn't care and see the value in this kid. And then, lo and behold, his junior year, the end of his junior year in high school, he started to hit his growth spurt, and he went from like 5'7", 130 pounds. He graduated at 6'2", I think 210. He was a big kid, and he went and played some D1 baseball. Right? So he was a success story. And that's the same kind of success story that many overlooked, slow developing kids can have if they stay the course and they keep working hard and they keep their head up and say, I can control what I can control and build fundamental skills. And then when the day comes that my body's ready to grow, all those fundamental skills are really going to pay off. And I've been working hard and I'm going to see it when I get the physicality to go with it. So hopefully today's video was a little bit of motivation for some of you out there. I know many of you are waiting on the same kinds of growth spurts. Maybe you're feeling overlooked. It's a really hard and lonely place to be, but stay the course. If you love the game, keep working, control what you can control, and maybe, just maybe, that big growth spurt and that exciting story will happen to you, and you'll see the payoff of all these years of hard work. All right. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe or join my channel to become a channel member if you haven't yet, and I'll see you here in the next video.